get away from all the streetlights, you can look up at the sky and hope to see a few planets and some of the 100 billion stars out there. How do you know, really, what you're looking at?
Well, the third series of Stargazing Live might help you. Gets underway tonight and hopes to encourage all of us to take another look up at the night sky. And with us this morning, one of the presenters, the astronomer Mark Thompson. Morning, Mark, who's brought us a little...
Good morning.
Well, I was going to say gift. We're not keeping it.
No, you're not keeping that, no.
This is priceless. What is it? It
costs a few quid. It's a meteorite. So it's a piece of rock, bit of space debris, which has actually fallen to Earth. It was discovered in Antarctica, landed on Earth about 16,000 years ago, and it's a piece of solid iron and nickel.
It's heavy.
It is. Just clunk it on the table.
Yes. Let's put it. Shall I just? Am I allowed to just slightly drop it?
Not the glass bit.
No.
There we go.
There's a weight there, isn't there?
Yes.
And that was probably travelling about 90 kilometres per second when it hit.
You don't want that to hit you on the head, do you?
No, it's going to hurt.
All right. Before we come back to the meteorite and other stuff, let's have a look at the new series.
5 billion years ago, the expansion of space actually began to speed up, as if something had given it fresh momentum. So what is this mysterious thing that's stretching the very fabric of space itself? Well, the best answer I can give you is that we don't know. If you have a photographic plate and a telescope, the marks on that plate are not made by the human hand. They are made by photons of light that have travelled from the stars themselves across hundreds or even thousands of light years to register their position on the map.
The telescope itself will sit in a cradle to support it, which can be winched up and down. Although it's been updated, it remains true to Herschel's principles. Now I'm against the clock to get this ready, so a solid base for the telescope to stand on is first on my list. With the key layers of scaffolding in place, it's time to add the specially crafted cradle for the 20-foot long telescope tube, which will hopefully stop it sagging in the middle.
Well, it fits. Big, isn't it?
And as it's put in position, you start to get a feel for Herschel's ambition and the sheer scale of what he was doing. Now there's just one thing missing, the actual telescope.
And we can all build one of those in our back garden, can we?
Yeah, of course you can. Piece of cake. Hardly.
What would you be able to see?
Well, the idea, the whole premise of what we're doing is we want to try and replicate what Herschel did, simply because in those days people used to spend years of their life studying the night sky, and it's thanks to people like Herschel that did all that. I mean, he was fed by his wife when he was doing his observing. I hope my wife's watching.
When you say fed by, you mean she brought meals?
She'd feed him food while he was looking through the telescope.
He couldn't take his eye off.
Because he couldn't take his eye off the telescope.
She'd spoon feed him?
Yeah, absolutely. His sister would make notes of his observations while he was observing. So there was this real intense dedication, and it's thanks to people like that that we can learn so much about what we can see in the universe now.
What are you going to tell us how to find, so to speak?
Well, we're going to try and see if we can find Uranus through that very telescope. Now, Herschel didn't use it specifically to look at objects. He actually pointed it at the sky and then let the Earth spin, and as the Earth was spinning, it would actually sweep across the universe. So he used it as an instrument of discovery rather than to point at things. But we're going to try and see if we can find Uranus, which he discovered as well.
Are you weather dependent?
Very much so. Yeah, big time. It's worrying, isn't it?
Yes, well, it's been so cloudy.
The forecast is a bit iffy at the moment. There's a front coming in from the west, I think, so we might get some clear skies behind it, but it's all a bit hit and miss at the moment. Yes. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's all good. And plus, you know, the lights.
Yes, lights.
How are you going to get everybody in Britain to turn off their lights?
It's a difficult one. We rely on our eyes to see things, and people, it's natural, rely on expecting to see things, and if you don't feel safe. But reality is that if lights go off, then crime rates drop. That's a fact. We've seen that from studies. So it's a difficult thing encouraging people to do that, but you know, people can get out in the countryside and see the night sky and enjoy it just by travelling a few hours.
How good are we generally at spotting stars? I mean, the Plough and Orion's Belt, I think
it's surprisingly bad. I mean, I did some work on the One Show a year or two back, and I asked people in the streets, you know, how long it took the Earth to spin on its axis. Now, that's what gives us a day. I asked them, how long does it take the Earth to go around the Sun? And it's a year. And it's basic understanding of the universe that people just don't see. Not everyone, but people don't seem to have that. And the constellations as well, you know, we just don't take the time to stop and look up. The universe is there. It's a stunning sight, but we're all busy people. I've done it myself. You just forget sometimes just to look up because you're so busy doing stuff. And it's a real shame, but there's stunning sights up there to be seen.
Meteorites like this one, how often are they landing?
Well, they land. There's actually some crazy figure of hundreds or thousands of tons of meteoric material that lands on the Earth every year. So there's actually a lot of it, but it comes down as a very, very fine dust. Bits like that are a little bit rarer, but they do land. There are cases where the odd building has been hit. There's a story of a cow that got hit by a meteorite. It survived, but a tiny little fragment of space dust that did come through the atmosphere. But you can see meteorites throughout the year. You can see meteors and meteor showers. In fact, the quadrantid meteor shower peaked earlier on this month. And you can see, 20 or 30 meteor showers per year, which is those pieces of rock falling in through the atmosphere.
And you're going to be having a look at Mars as well, aren't you? You've got one of the rovers.
We have the show we're putting out tonight is really all about the search for life and the search for water, because if we can find water in the universe, then there's a fairly good chance that where you find water, you find life. So finding the search for life is really about the search for water. Now, we have found water on the moon. We've found, not in its liquid state, of course, but we've found it on the moon, and we've found elements of it on Mars as well. So we have found it out there, but it's finding it in its liquid state, which is the really key thing. But we're talking about Mars tonight, and of course we're going to be looking at one of the rovers on the Back to Earth show, which we've actually got in the studio, which is going to Mars, I think, in 2019.
Okay, where will you be exactly tonight?
Well, I will be outside again in the fields of Jodrell Bank, hoping it's clear. I've got some people there from the Liverpool Astronomy Society, so we're going to have a bit of a star party going on.
Excellent.
And then on Thursday I'll be down at Derby to reveal this big Herschel telescope.
Good luck with the weather tonight.
Thank you very much. Going to need it.
Stargazing Live begins tonight, BBC 2, 8 o'clock.